Welcome to another edition of the College Basketball Net Profit Show, Pub Sports Radio. It is Tuesday, November 22nd. Ian Cameron and Conor back to preview what's left of the Tuesday card. We've got a bunch of games that have already been in action, but still a bunch left. And we got some good neutral court tournament games taking place tonight. Brooklyn, the Maui Invitational semifinals both look like they're going to be pretty good games, especially that late game, San Diego State, Arizona. I'm definitely looking forward to that one. So we got some good games to break down. As always, we'll start with marquee matchups for this Tuesday night, and we will begin with Bowling Green, Notre Dame. A little non-conference action here. We've got Notre Dame, big double-digit favorites here. This is in their home court. The total in this one and in the 140s in this one. Sorry, 153, I should say, the total in this game. I agree with the total going up. Bowling Green's one of those teams that's better offensively than they are defensively. But they have had some real ugly showings at that end of the court. How will they fare tonight in this matchup against Notre Dame? That remains to be seen. Notre Dame is not a team I'm rushing to bet a double-digit favorite. No question about that. They are 4-0 at home, all at home, but 4-0, 0-4, I should say, against the spread, failing to cover these big numbers. I mean, 18-point favorites to Radford, win by 3, 10.5-point favorites to Youngstown State, they win by 7. 14.5-point favorites against Southern Indiana. They win that game by 12. And, of course, last time out against Lipscomb, 12.5-point favorites. They win by just a single point. Bowling Green's had 2 ugly performances in a row. Like I said, no defense on this team whatsoever. 80-71 loss to Wright State. 81-68 loss to St. Bonaventure. Bowling Green is 326 in the country defensive field goal percentage. I wouldn't hate taking Bowling Green plus the points, but they've played literally zero defense. And I think Notre Dame is going to be able to score at will. They'll be able to score from 3-point range. They're good at that. And Bowling Green's terrible defending the 3. They're even worse defending the 2-point shot as well. So this could be a night where Notre Dame gets anything they want. That would be what's going to be, tempt my enthusiasm, if you will, about fading Notre Dame again. I think the over's just the better bet, the better play in this game. It's already gone up to 153. And I like that game to go over the total. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, these are 2 over teams. Bowling Green was really great to the over. You talk about they don't play much defense, and Notre Dame, an over team as well to end the year. Even the first few games, I think they're 11-3, last 14. Bowling Green was so bad on the road, ATS. It's tough to take them here. Notre Dame, though, hasn't looked good. I don't know if they should be laying 15 points in this spot. I do like the over. It's moved too much. I didn't grab the 150. It still could get over this. We start getting 150s. You're going to need 80, 75 at least, or whatever. It's going to be 85, 70, So you need tons of points. So I think it probably gets there, but in the end, I'm going to stay off. Bowling Green's that bad. Notre Dame, though, not much defense too, and they hit their threes and a good free throw shooting team. So yeah, side I'm off, but I lean over.
Yeah, I think they're going to continue to be a good over team, Notre Dame, because they got shooters. They got guys that can put the ball in the hoop. With Nate Laszewski's been there forever. Obviously, Dane Goodwin's a good scorer, Trey Wentz. And wait till they get that guy from Niagara that came over, someone that's followed the Metro Atlantic Conference for years and bets it regularly, I know the MAAC very well. Marcus Hammond at Niagara was a great player there. He's joining Notre Dame pretty soon, returning from injury, I think in the next couple of weeks. So there's another guy that's going to be able to fill it up offensively. So they're going to have no issue scoring, Conor Mac, once they get into a conference play, but it's going to be defensively. They do have to step it up on that end of the floor, and they're having issues with that early in the season. All right, next up, we've got Nevada and Kansas State in the next matchup. This is a neutral court game here between these two teams taking place at it is the Cayman Islands Classic, second round matchup. Kansas State 4.5-point favorites, 139 the total. I've been very impressed positively with Kansas State, no question. 4-0. You got to give them credit for the way they've started this season. A team that was picked to be near the bottom of the Big 12, and they still might be, because we've seen this over the years where teams that play good in non-conference don't always follow it up in conference play. I've seen this for years. There's been teams that just play great in November and December, and then they get into conference play, things get tougher, teams know them better, and they just fall off. And that could be the case for Kansas State. Would shock me, especially with how tough the Big 12 and how deep the Big 12 is in college basketball this year. But right now they're playing well, both ends of the floor. They beat up Rhode Island. Rhode Island's pretty bad, pretty shorthanded right now. Kansas City, they won that game handily. They beat Cal, who's not very good, and UT Rio Grande Valley, another weak opponent. So that's the only issue I have with Kansas State. Yeah, they're 4-0, but schedule's been pretty light. This is by far going to be the best team they have faced so far this season, playing the Nevada Wolfpack. I think the market's adjusted too much on Kansas State here to this 4-0 start. I kind of like Nevada here, plus the points on a neutral court. Someone that's obviously backed Kansas State a bunch, I think now might be the time to sell high on Kansas State, especially because by far, in my opinion, this is the toughest team they've played so far this season, this Nevada Wolfpack team. And look, their defense has been good, Nevada. And that's always been the issue with them in years past. But their defense has held each of their first 5 opponents to fewer than 38%. I mean, Steve Alford's raving about how well they're playing at the defensive end of the court here early on this season. Jared Lucas, Trey Coleman, Keenan Blackshear. They've got a good offensive trio with that group. I think Kansas State, nice start to your year. Great job. And the new coach, taking over for Bruce Weber, has got these kids playing hard nightly. But you're taking a big step up in class here. When you compare Nevada to the first 4 opponents Kansas State has played, there's no comparison. Nevada's a lot better than anyone's Kansas State's played so far. So on a neutral court, catching points, I like Nevada here, +4, +4.5. What do you think here, CMAC, Wolfpack, Wildcats?
Yeah, I don't mind Nevada a little bit. I'm not going to be on this one. This was one, though, if this was 7, I like a lot better with Nevada just to be safe. You mentioned, I think Kansas State is a team that will drop off. Once they get in conference play, one of these teams, they start, 8-0 maybe or whatever, 9-1, you see them just fall off the wayside. You mentioned Blackshear, all those guys playing well. Defense is good here. This is interesting. There was people mentioned in the chat, but shout out to the chat, everyone in here. Hit the like button, you know the deal. The under. It's crazy. Everything's on this under, the money, everything, but this line's gone up 1.5 points, up to 139.5, which is interesting. So yeah, I think this could stay under, but in the end, I think I'm going to be off.
Lean under, but going to pass on this one, Conor Mack. All right, we move on to the Maui Invitational. First of 2 semifinals tonight. Creighton taking on Arkansas. We've got the Creighton Blue Jays. People buying into Creighton because they beat Texas Tech, and it was an impressive win, and people reacting to that because Arkansas opened a 2-point favorite. If we've seen a flip of favorites here, Creighton is now laying 1.5, even to 2-point favorite in some spots now are the Blue Jays. 143, 143.5, the total in this one. I mean, here's another team where over the years under McDermott here, the head coach of Creighton, we've known them to be a pretty good scoring team, but sometimes lack on the defensive end. But I'm telling you what, they are playing some real good defense. I lost with Texas Tech against them yesterday, and I'll give Creighton all the credit in the world. I mean, they held Texas Tech to 27 of 62 shooting the basketball. Very impressive as far as rebounding, +5 rebounding margin in favor of Creighton in that game. They did have some turnover issues, 13 in that game. That is the hang up for me when I look at this matchup against Arkansas. That is going to have to be better. That's the one area of their game that was a little shaky against Texas Tech. Great win, great defensive effort. In terms of getting the stops, they were fine, but that turnover issue that they had didn't hurt them against Tech. But you got teams that will run in transition off turnovers like Arkansas does, like Arkansas has done under Musselman since he's been there. That could be a little bit of an issue for me with Creighton. So I think with Creighton, it's one of those tough games where I think it's a really good game, 2 very good teams. If Creighton was the dog in this game, which is where the line opened, where Arkansas was 1.5, 2-point favorite, I'd probably like Creighton, if they were 1.5, 2-point dog. But now that it's flipped and Arkansas is a 1.5, 2-point dog, I lean Razorbacks now, especially when you consider I still worry about the ball handling a little bit for Creighton, something that will show up in this matchup against this opponent a whole hell of a lot more than it will yesterday against Texas Tech. So I definitely look toward the Razorbacks a little bit here as far as this game is concerned. Arkansas, by the way, every game has gone under the total, something to point out if you're looking toward the total. They are betting this thing up, and I think they bet the total up at every Maui Invitational game so far. I think yesterday's games, all of today's games, I think everybody was betting these overs. The Ohio State-Cincy game was being bet to the over. Creighton, Arkansas, the total's gone up. The game we're going to talk about, Arizona San Diego State here in Maui, that total's been bet up as well. This is the one where I'd hesitate on jumping on the over, even though it's been bet up with how Creighton is playing defensively. And again, Arkansas, every game of theirs so far has gone under the total. And I don't know if this is as good a shooting team for Arkansas as we've seen the last couple of years. What do you think here, C-Mac, Creighton, Arkansas?
Yeah, I don't know if they are. There's such big hype here for Creighton this year, or in both these teams, but especially them, that this team, could go to the Elite Eight, Final Four. I think this comes down to Creighton's offense, Arkansas's defense in the end. Can they score on this Arkansas defense that's been very good? It's such one of these ones, in the Maui, these early when the teams play each other, it's just like, to me, I'm not finding a crazy angle on betting anything here. To me, this is just a watch. If you really think Arkansas is that good and defensively will get it to Creighton, take them. But I just want to watch this one, enjoy it. I don't need any money on it. Maybe I bet it live, but I'll be watching.
All right. Yeah, it's a good game. Definitely one worth one. So is this next game. This is the other semifinal tonight with the Maui Invitational. What a game this could end up being with just how well they've started. San Diego State taking on Arizona. We've got the Arizona Wildcats here, 1.5 point favorites in this game. The total currently sitting at 165.5 now. And this opened at 161.5, the total in this game. I already jumped on as soon as the lines came out, I said, I got to hit the over on this game because I know the money's going to come in on the over. And I know that the odds makers are, I think, scrambling to try to adjust to this Arizona team. I'm saying it right now. With all due respect to Gonzaga, Kansas, Duke, all the other top teams in college basketball, I think this is the best offensive team right now in the country, Arizona. That was ridiculous last night, watching that game late night against Cincinnati. Every time I was doing some work, some other things, I was handicapping today's games a little bit while that game was going on. Every time I fucking looked up in the second half, the ball's going through the basket for Arizona. Like 5 seconds later, another basket for Arizona. 5 seconds later, another basket for another three, another dunk, another 2-point shot, another dribble drive, another layup, another 3-pointer. It's like every 10 seconds they're scoring a basket. Arizona. What an offensive team. I mean, just incredible. The ball movement, nobody's selfish. They share the basketball. They can shoot. They can score around the rim. They can shoot the three. I mean, you name it. Arizona can do it. It's so much fun to watch. Umar Ballo, the center, is incredible. Azuolas Tubelis, you can't stop him right now. He's been a scoring machine. They bring in the Texas transfer, Courtney Ramey. What an addition he's been to this Arizona team. It's a fifth-year guard that you brought in the offseason. Great job by Tommy Lloyd there. I mean, this team is just loaded in terms of guys that can just score. And don't look now, but we criticized his shooting percentage at times last year. Remember Arizona? Great season last year, deep run into the tournament. But sometimes we would see the point guard, Kerr Kriisa, struggle to shoot, especially from long distance. Well, he's getting better now, too, shooting that three ball. He made a couple of big shots last night. So good luck defending this team when you face them right now. I mean, it's just very, very difficult. And San Diego State is playing faster. I've now seen enough of San Diego State to know Brian Dutcher is true to his word. They are playing with more pace, more tempo. This ain't your Steve Fisher, San Diego State Aztecs. I mean, they are playing with pace. They're getting up and down the floor. That BYU game, the BYU plays, BYU is actually a snail compared to Arizona. They play actually fast, but Arizona makes them look like a snail. That's how fast Arizona plays. And that game with BYU, San Diego State got to 157 and ended up flying over the total. They flew over the total, San Diego State, with Ohio State last night in their 88-77 win. I think this is one of the better offensive teams that San Diego State has had in years, with Isaac Likikale, McNeil. Of course, it goes without saying, all the guys that they've got here, Mensah, Butler, and of course, Matt Bradley, who's been here forever, it seems. Micah Parrish can give them a little bit offensively. It's very impressive, San Diego State. This is a very good offensive team, much better than they've been in years past. But I also think their defense has taken a hit. I don't know if the Aztecs are defending, and I don't think they're guarding as well as they have the last couple of years. So I'm in full agreement with the total going up. We're clearly seeing 161 where this opened is too fucking low for an Arizona game right now. I mean, they are just going up and down the floor. They're damn near scoring 100 in every game. I mean, this is absolutely insane what they're doing. 117, 95, 104. Cincinnati is not some slop team. and they put a 101 spot on the board against the Cincinnati Bearcats last night. So, yeah, this is a dynamite offense. And again, I still think the totals, I think you're getting close to the point where you got to put them in the 170s. I mean, these Arizona game totals, they have been, I'm doing the math now in my head, 192, we had a 173, we had a 181, and then we had 194 points in the game last night. So that's why I think even in the 160s, it's too damn low still for an Arizona total. What do you think here, Conor? I mean, talk about a great thing to watch in the late night hours. Maui Invitational semifinal with San Diego State, Arizona.
Yeah, another good game. That's kind of just seems like a coin flip. One thing I think, Arizona hasn't played anybody. I get it. Cincinnati is no slouch. We all know that Cincinnati basketball, but I don't think they're very good. And they hung around all night long. I think San Diego State in the end has a little better defense that can make a few stops. And it hasn't really shown. You've talked about it, but I think they're a little bit of the better team right now. I need to see more at Arizona. Of course, they're scoring 100, but they can give it up. Their defense hasn't been great. So I'm going to take San Diego State on the money line. And you're right. There probably is points. This probably gets over. But I'm just going to take San Diego State money line.
All right, San Diego State money line stepping in front. And look, I'll tell you what. For as much as I'm raving about Arizona offensively, they did give up 93 to the Bearcats and 47% shooting and 50% from three-point range. They couldn't contain Landers Nolly there in that game.
To a team that struggles to score at times. I mean, it's still early this year, but in the past. So that was interesting.
So there's still some defensive concerns, if you will, for Arizona. But, you got to think they're going to their offense is so good, they're going to have nights like last night where they outscore their defensive issues. They're that incredible offensively, but it was the second half was insane. I mean, everything was going in for Arizona. I mean, like I say, I was honestly look up at the television, another basket for them every 10 seconds. It was an incredible exhibition of offense from that Arizona Wildcats team last night. See if they can do it tonight against, I agree, a better San Diego State team, in my opinion, than Cincinnati. All right, next up, we've got South Florida and St. Joe's. This one taking place in the Ocean Center down in Florida. St. Joe's around a pick 'em -1, 130.5 the total. I like St. Joe's here. St. Joe's burned me yesterday against Georgia. I thought they'd play better than that. They did not play well at all. Had a bunch of issues, but now you're playing a South Florida team that cannot score to save themselves. Bounce back spot here, I believe, for the St. Joseph's Hawks. And I think they are capable of getting the job done. Remember, this is the two teams that lost yesterday. So, these consolation games in these neutral court tournaments can be a little bit tricky in terms of motivation. But I just think St. Joe's at a pick 'em against a team that can't shoot straight. I'll take my chances. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, I think they probably win as well. I'm going to stay off. Both teams can't shoot. Let's just not get it. They beat Albany, but other than that, Lafayette 63. Obviously, Houston's great 55. They scored 53 last night. I stayed off. That total was too much. UAB is too fast. That game went over. So I'm glad I stayed off. But even this has trickled down, here at 131 or 130.5. I know it's going down a few points. It's under nothing for us here.
All right, Bradley, Auburn. Next up, this is in the Riviera Division, Hard Rock Arena here, taking in Mexico. Yeah, Riviera Maya. That's where we are here, Mexico, for these next two games. Bradley and Auburn. Auburn 12-point favorites, 137.5 the total in this game. I mean, this could get rough for Bradley. It really could, because Auburn's actually impressed me more than I thought. And when you look at Bradley here, I know it's a 3-1 start, but this is a team that, when they played someone halfway decent, they struggled to score. Against Utah State. They lost by 18 in that game, 84-62. I mean, and then now you're playing a really good Auburn team, and an Auburn team that don't look now, they're defending right now at a very high level. Very good defensive team so far, Auburn, early in the season against South Florida, Winthrop, Texas Southern, George Mason. And look, George Mason's a pretty solid A-10 squad. So to hold them to 52 points, 21 of 56 shooting, very impressive by Auburn in that game. Again, they're defending at a level that I didn't see consistently last year, which is good to see moving forward. See if they can keep that up. I mean, they're number 19 in three-point defense, 35th field goal percentage defense as well. You're also looking at this being a Bradley team that, again, can sometimes scuffle at the offensive end. As far as Auburn goes offensively this year, now we know sometimes their shot selection last year and their guard play shooting the ball wasn't always great, but definitely have to be encouraged by what you're seeing here early on. Bradley, when you look at it, you're worried too about the Jashawn Henry's injury for Bradley. It's very, very concerning when you look at what he means to this team. He's a guy that gives you double digits in points, usually gives you upwards of 20 to 25 points and rebounds per game. And that is a player that may not play in this game for the Bradley Braves due to a concussion. That would be a big loss for them tonight in this game, especially when they're undermanned a little on that front line as it is. You take away a good power forward like that against Auburn, could be trouble against Auburn. So the money's come in on Auburn here. I think it's tough to lay 12 on a neutral. I get that. This is in Mexico, miles away from home, but I don't think I could take Bradley here. I worry about this matchup. I would lay it with Auburn before I take Bradley here. Any thoughts here, Conor?
Yeah, I don't really have anything here. I would lay with Auburn as well. I'm not going to get involved here. Bradley's one of these teams, every time they kind of step up, they don't get it done. They've had better basketball schools in the, teams in the past, but, they already lost to Utah State by 22. I've never loved Auburn, a ton laying points like this you talked about on neutral floor, but I think this might be low enough. Yeah, and watch if he's going to be in or not. That's a big move for Bradley. It's like 13, 14 points. So lean Auburn for me.
All right, next up, I'm in a good mood. We'll do it. Liberty, 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 and Northwestern. Northwestern here, 3.5 point not home favorites. This is in Riviera Maya, Mexico as well. 3.5 point favorites, 130.5 the total. Hard Rock Arena, same venue as the Bradley Auburn game. And I'm taking Liberty plus the points. I'm always interested in Liberty as a dog. You know that. Richie McKay, this half-court stifling defense that they bring to the table. Northwestern has started 4-0. I give them credit. Nice start to the year. But again, we're talking about nothing but sisters of the poor to begin your season for the most part with who you faced. You faced Chicago State, rather, in your first game. Northern Illinois is not very good. Okay, you played Georgetown, but Georgetown hasn't done anything under Patrick Ewing since he's been there. And, of course, Purdue-Fort Wayne in their last game. They actually failed to cover in that game. I still worry about them offensively a little bit. They've had some games where they've struggled to shoot the basketball, and the two games they did score were against two of the, I'd say, weaker defenses in college basketball. Now you got to try to score against this Liberty team. Going to be challenging. Liberty has also faced a pretty tough schedule, all things considered. They had to play, obviously, Alabama early in the season. That's not an easy game. You look at, they also played Southern Miss, who, to be honest with you, they've been one of the surprise stories this year in college basketball. Southern Miss was expected to be okay this season, not necessarily great. Southern Miss has played great basketball. So Liberty losing to them, it looks bad because they were 11-point favorites. They lost outright, but losing to Southern Miss the way Southern Miss has played, I don't think is the worst thing in the world. I think, Northwestern, like I said, I've still got some concerns about them. They're only shooting 41% from the field, 286th in the country right now in terms of field goal percentage. And all that Liberty team is going to do is they're going to clog up the middle. They're going to play pack line. That's Richie McKay plays the same way that Tony Bennett does at Virginia, pack line defense going into this game. So, again, I think going to be challenging for Northwestern. You look also free throw shooting for Liberty, outstanding, 77% from the free throw line. Very good free throw shooting team, something that could matter in what's a competitively lined point spread such as this. So I like Liberty here plus 3.5. I think they can win the game, but give me the bonus of a 3.5 point spread in a game that I think's got the potential to come down to the wire when it's all said and done. Good timing because we got CMAC back with us just as I finished up my analysis on this game. What do you think here, Conor? Liberty Northwestern.
You know what? I don't love this game. I need more with a little more with Liberty. I haven't been too impressed with them. Northwestern, on the other hand, a little better at home, relies on the three. I don't mind your play, but I'm off.
All right, let's go back to the Barclays Center. Another night at the Empire Classic semifinals here of the Barclays Invitational here. Syracuse and actually, this is the final actually tonight. Syracuse and St. John's. Richmond Temple is the other game. That's like a consolation. But Syracuse, St. John's, we've got St. John's 3.5 point favorites, 154 being the total in this game. I think I like the Johnnies here a little bit. I understand why the money's come in. Obviously, there's Syracuse is going to have a lot of fans, though. I mean, we can't act like this is going to be like a home game for St. John's, even though they're the New York school from that Brooklyn area. Syracuse is going to have their fans in attendance here, too. Make no mistake about it. But I don't know if I'm really ready to say Syracuse. I trust them after last night. They had to play an overtime game. They had to extend themselves to beat a Richmond team that I think has been very mediocre so far this year. 74-71 victory in overtime for Syracuse in that game. St. John's, not a good start, but man, very good second half. 78-72. They roared past Temple to get the victory in that game. So, and I think when you look at it here, Syracuse, let's be honest, they really, really rely heavily on Joe Girard in a lot of games, and that was the case again last night. He's been here now multiple years, great shooter when he's on his game, and last night he was on his game, 50% shooting, 12 of 24, 31 points, career high in points for him. Now you had to rely on him so much last night. It's tough to come back, especially with no rest the very next day when you're playing back-to-back nights, have that same performance, and he really was what stirred that Syracuse through that victory last night against Richmond in overtime. I think it's going to be tricky to expect that kind of same performance here tonight. And St. John's, we're looking for signs of them being improved defensively. I like the way they defended down the stretch against Temple. Temple really struggled to get any kind of offensive traction going down the stretch of that game against St. John's. So maybe this team is starting to get a little bit better. So the money's come in on St. John's. I kind of agree with that. I think the thing that concerns me here as well in this matchup is Syracuse misses a shot here. Are they going to get on the glass and be able to get rebounds? St. John's has a huge rebounding edge, offensive rebounding and defensive rebounding in this game. Syracuse has never been a great rebounding team these last couple of years, but they really could feel it. If you actually look at the rebounding statistics, St. John's is much the better rebounding team. And in a situation like this, they could get second chances, third chances off missed shots, and that could allow St. John's not only win, but maybe extend the margin. So I agree with the move, St. John's. I took money line minus 140. I think the money line's a little bit higher now. Since the point spread's moved up, you can still get minus 150 to minus 155 money line. It's a little richer now, but lay the points if you don't like that price. But I like St. John's here a little bit in this matchup. What do you think, C-Mac?
Yeah, I lean St. John's. They always have these weird games the last few years. You think they're going to win, cover the short number, and they lose. But I'm not huge. Syracuse, you talked about, got the win last night. They shot it well. This team got hammered on the glass, though. I don't think they're very good. I'm with you here. This is, to me, St. John's are just past this game.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, St. John's has the makeup of being a team that could be pretty damn good when it's all said and done. If they could just play some consistent defense at that end of the court. Yeah, I like this team. Posh Alexander's been here forever. When he's healthy, he's a great player. I like Mathis. They bring in Andre Curbelo from Illinois, a guy with winning experience from a good program. There's lots to like here with St. John's. A lot of upside. I mean, if you're interested in Big East Conference futures, I don't mind taking a shot with St. John's. We're seeing Villanova's not all that spectacular. They're a little vulnerable so far this year. This could open a door for a team like St. John's in that conference this year, especially if they're going to improve at the defensive end of the court, which they've shown glimpses of doing here early in the new season. All right, let's go to the other game in Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Richmond Temple. The Owls 1.5 point favorites here, 134 the total. That's a little hint that I'm on Temple here in this game tonight against Richmond. Now, last night was a tough one. What did I have with Temple? I think it was plus 4.5, 4, and they lose by 6. Tough. I mean, they were right there, and St. John's just squeaks out the cover at the end of that game. Tough one for Temple, but I think they can rebound here. Situationally, definitely a negative situation for Richmond. They had to extend themselves coming off the overtime game against Syracuse. So that could be a problem here facing this Temple Owls team. Temple, so far this season, you look at it, offensively, kind of sporadic, comes and goes for them. But for Chris Mooney and this Richmond team, I don't know if I've seen them be this weak, this rough offensively. And the one thing we're seeing from Temple here is pretty solid defensive effort. I don't give them too much issues for not getting the job done against St. John's. It's a very good offensive team. I think Temple's in a good spot here to bounce back and pick up the bounce back victory here in this game against Richmond. And again, the fact that Richmond had to extend themselves, go overtime last night against Syracuse, I don't think that's a good thing for them. So Temple money line, I like that. What do you think, Conor?
Yeah, this game's interesting. I think if they shoot it well, this goes over. But with these defense and these teams shooting it sometimes, this could stay way under. So this one's kind of a back and forth on the total for me. I lean Temple a little bit as well. Richmond's just, I don't know, up and down. I haven't think that they've looked very good. Obviously losing last night. I lean Temple. They're just another team, though. It's like a good win, and then they just fall back. Well, they were bad last night, but losing by 6. But yeah, I lean Temple here just to get the win.
Lean toward Temple there in that one. All right, that is your marquee games for this Tuesday night. A lot of interesting ones, a lot of good neutral court games, and looking forward to how they all play out. So now we're at the segment of the show where, again, after the marquee games, if there's any games that Conor likes and I like that we haven't talked about yet and that we've bet for this card tonight in college basketball, we'll talk about them now. Conor, were there any games that we haven't talked about yet that you're eyeing?
Yeah, I might be on some dogs here. Just no way I could lay it with Pittsburgh. I get it; they're the better team, athletic, but Fairleigh Dickinson's nothing to rave about. But I'll take a flyer a little bit with them on the plus 14.5. And I'm looking at this other game real quick. The Coppin State Towson game is interesting. I think this could get over the total. But yeah, those were just the two leans I had on the extra board. You had anything there?
I actually like the dog in both. I actually like the over. It's funny. You mentioned the over in the Coppin State Towson game. I kind of lean Coppin, and I like Towson, but Towson, that is a lot of points to be laying with a team that can sometimes struggle offensively. And let's not forget, they had to come back from way back against Greensboro to beat them in that game. So I kind of like Coppin there, plus points. And I'm high on Towson. I like Towson as a team. They're going to be a team I'm going to be looking to back at other spots this year, but not when they're laying this kind of number against a pretty offensively capable team like Coppin State. So I like the Coppin side a little bit there. As far as the total in that game, it's kind of a pace war because Coppin's going to want to play fast. Towson's going to want to slow it down. But I'm usually I'm always looking at Coppin overs, but Towson I know really wants to slow down, play half court. So that's an interesting dynamic there. Fairleigh and Pitt, I like both the dog and the over. The over's taking money. I agree with that. I think Pittsburgh's going to be able to score a lot of points against that horrendous defense of Fairleigh Dick. And I mean horrendous. I mean, it's just been awful. And all games for Fairleigh Dickinson have gone over the total. I mean, Manhattan's not a great offensive team. That game got into the 150s. You got to believe Pitt can score here. I know Pitt had games against West Virginia, Michigan, VCU. They didn't get out of the 60s. But this is the worst defense they've played. It's not even close. They should be able to find their way to some points. So I like the over in this game. I kind of like Fairleigh a little bit too, but I like the over even more in that Fairleigh Dickinson Pitt game. So there we go with that. As far as the other games that I've bet is for this card, then we'll get to some Q&A to wrap up the show. I'm always interested in fading St. Bonaventure this year when they're laying the number they're laying tonight. I mean, this obviously a depleted team compared to last year. They lost so much of that great personnel that they had last year. That was such a great team on paper, yet didn't even make the tournament last year, and now kind of starting over a little bit now this year. And they've actually played okay, but I think in this matchup now, when you're asking them to lay big points, it's going to be a problem. And I like what I've seen out of Southern Indiana here, this new addition here to Division I college basketball. They beat up Southern Illinois. They were competitive, 19-point dogs. They lost at Missouri by just 6. They hung tough, covered wire to wire at Notre Dame just 6 days ago. They've been a very good underdog, Southern Indiana. So I like Southern Indiana, plus 7.5 against St. Bonnie there.
I agree. I was looking at it. I've been surprised too by Southern Indiana, how they played. And I think it's going to this could be a rough year for St. Bonaventure. So I like the points there.
All right, liking the points there. Canisius Cornell, I like the over in that game. You know I'm a big fan of Cornell games over the total. That game's already started, though, so can't go with that one. We mentioned Bowling Green, Notre Dame. I think UC San Diego might be a decent underdog against George Washington. I still don't love GW in the moderate favorite role, so UC San Diego kind of interests me in that game as an underdog. I was interested in Ryder because of some Rutgers injuries, but it looks like Rutgers might be more at full strength than I thought. And if they bring it on defense, and they might after losing to Temple, Ryder might have a hard time scoring and staying tough in that game. So I decided I talked myself out of Ryder, plus the points there, in a little New Jersey rivalry game there between those two. And a couple others, Oral and Utah State over the total, although that number's gone up. I like it. I think there's going to be a lot of points. Oral Roberts, Oral Bob, as I like to call them, against Utah State. I'm on Sacramento State plus 4.5 against UC Davis. I like them. The Hornets usually in the underdog role, pretty solid defensive team. Tough to build a margin against them. So Sacramento State plus the points I like there in that game. And then a couple from the added board that Penn I was interested in. Dingle I think is going to play for Penn. It seems like he's on the injury report every fucking game for the Penn Quakers, but I think he's going to end up playing for them tonight. And if he does play, I think they're going to be a little too much for that Lafayette team. So I definitely lean to a Penn minus 5.5 there in that game. And the only other one I think, Stonehill. Stonehill's funny. Stonehill, people think this team's garbage. They price this team, odds makers, like they're hot garbage because they're brand new to Division One. They're actually a competitive little squad here. I know they're only 2-4, but they push the basketball. They're pretty good offensively. They're very lacking defensively. That's the only concern. But man, I've been impressed with Stonehill, what we've seen. I mean, they beat Army as dogs. They hung tough for against Providence, and if you got the good number with Providence, they cashed by the hook. 24.5 point dogs. They lost by 24. They beat Holy Cross 81-79 on a neutral court. I like what I've seen offensively from this team. Fordham's obviously played well, but again, they faced a lot of weaker opponents here in this one. And keep in mind, Fordham, a New York school, and if I'm not mistaken, Stonehill is also a bit of a, it's a Massachusetts school, Stonehill. So never mind. Yeah, it's Easton, Massachusetts. It's a little Catholic school in Massachusetts, Stonehill. But they have been actually a little bit of a sneaky point spread machine here as an underdog in these big numbers. So, and the money's come in on them. So I think people just, and they're a tricky team to prepare for when you're not familiar with them. They really do run fluid offense. I just wish they were better defensively. That's their issue. But I like Stonehill there, and probably the over. Stonehill looks like they're going to be a good over team as well. So Stonehill plus the points in the over against Fordham. And I want to throw out, since Clark Townsend mentioned it, because I am on the Pacific Tigers again. I like that team a lot. Laying minus, 5 against Mount St. Mary's. I laid the points with Pacific, and that game goes over the total, I think. It's 146, 147. Pacific scoring in bunches, playing faster. So is Mount St. Mary's. Mount St. Mary's is not playing quite that same deliberate, slow snail pace of last year. So I think there's a chance that game can get up and over the number. So that's pretty much everything else I'm on. There we go. So Q&A.
Excellent.
Let's see what else we got. SMU, says Eric Jones, minus 1.5 in that game for them. The money's coming in against SMU as well in that game. I've noticed that because we've seen a lot of money flood in that game against SMU. It's interesting because SMU to me hasn't impressed me, and the betting markets kind of see what I've seen. I mean, they've not exactly been someone that's like I say, gotten off to the best start so far this year. Now they got to take on the ULL Raging. I'm not going to make that mistake because people are offended now if you call them ULL or Lafayette. They want to be called Louisiana Raging Cajuns. But Raging Cajuns.
I haven't heard any. I know that guy mentioned that, but I haven't heard anyone else. So no,
maybe I'm making too much out of it then.
Maybe no, I know. I mean, other than him, I haven't heard like a fucking petition or anything.
No.
So.
I mean, I haven't been impressed. They haven't covered a point spread yet this year, SMU. 0-4 ATS, blown out by Dayton, blown out by New Mexico against an Evansville team that I think is going to be bottom tier in their conference this year. I mean, 55-47, struggled to score in that game. The Raging Cajuns, they beat, a solid Louisiana Tech team, a Harvard neutral court, 2.5 point favorites, 175-61. I've been very, very disappointed offensively with SMU. This doesn't even look close to some of the SMU offenses I've seen in the past. They're 347th in the country with their field goal percentage. I mean, they can't shoot straight right now. It's absolutely a big-time problem. And Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, they have been a pretty solid offensive team. Do worry about rebounding a little bit. Actually, I'd worry about rebounding as well for SMU. They've been a horrible defensive rebounding team. ULL is a very good offensive rebounding team. Believe it or not, it may look like, what the hell, SMU -1.5 against ULL. Got to take SMU, not me. I've got real issues with SMU, and clearly they've been overvalued because they're 0 for ATS this year. So I didn't bet Lafayette either, the Cajuns, but I get why people are, and I probably still lean to the dog there. Anything there with that game, Connor Mack, SMU?
Hell no. SMU's got problems
Yeah.
right now. It'll be rough for them. So yeah, nothing.
Yeah, it's one of those games where I could only take the Cajuns because they're just playing better right now, but it's also a discount now. I mean, SMU before the season's not laying them 1.5 at home against the Raging Cajuns, so you got to keep that in mind. Yeah, we talked about Nevada, K-State. We do like Nevada there, Clark. I do. Earlier in the show, I mentioned, I'm on Nevada in that game.
I talked about the under too.
Yep.
But this line's moving up. Very strange. I mean, it's all under money, tickets, the money, everything. But it's moved to 1.5.
Prairie View A&M against you know how much money I've lost on fucking UTSA basketball. So no offense, Jose, but this team's frustrated me here at times the last couple of years.
They're fucking garbage. Don't worry, they're fucking horrible. Fire Steve Henson immediately.
Well, they did have 1-2 in a row. I mean, the last game against Texas State, 61-56 as underdogs. But I kept hearing for years about this great backcourt that they had, and they'd always play poorly every time I bet on them. They've been frustrated. They've been underwhelming there in Conference USA. Prairie View, though, 1-point road underdog against UTSA. They played all right, but it's a pass for me. I couldn't even give you a lean here, honestly.
Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of think this game might trickle over the total 139, but no, I'm not going to be involved in that one. Vermont and Yale, I'll bring that up. Nobody in the chat did, but I'll bring it up just simply because we haven't talked about it. It's not a bad matchup. We see obviously early in the season that Vermont, 1-4, they've struggled. Yale is 5-0. It makes you think, God, don't you have to take Yale? Yet all the money's pouring in on Vermont. Do you know why that is? Because you played CS Fullerton, pretty solid team in the Big West. St. Mary's, excellent team, great defense. USC and Iona. That's a pretty tough start to the year for Vermont in terms of their schedule. Whereas you look at what Yale's played, Sisters of the Poor all over the place. Eastern Washington, Mississippi Valley State, Hawaii. This last game was against John Jay College. John Jay, I thought that was the baseball player for a minute. 112-55.
The hell is that?
John Jay College. 112-55. You know what I mean? I know Yale's 5-0, but come on, you compare these two teams' schedules so far. Vermont's been playing some good teams, good mid-major squads. I think you're falling into a little bit of a trap here with Yale if you're taking them. So I'm not on the game, but I understand why Vermont's taking the money. I know they're the worst team with the worst record, but they're a better team than that record shows. And now I think there's an opportunity for them to get on the winning side of things.
Yeah, I'm off there. Should be a good game though.
Yep.
The line's already moved though, Vermont's favor. So I'm off.
Yeah, exactly, Clark. Good point. Just going back to Prairie View there with UTSA, it's exactly what that's exactly why I said over 139 looks a little bit light in that game. Prairie View A&M, they don't walk that ball up and down or walk that ball up the court. 64th in the country in terms of pace so far in possessions per game. So they have had definitely an ability to push that ball in transition, get up and down the basketball court. So we'll see if that continues. And UTSA is not a slog either, 143 in tempo, but just that their offense is so weak so far. But you're going to get pace and possessions. You're just going to have to hope you get efficiency. You have to hope you get shot making. If you do, I think it can get over 139, that UTSA Prairie View game. Did you cover the Bonnies? I'm fading the Bonnies. I'm on Southern Indiana. We talked about that a few minutes ago. We like Southern Indiana here, plus 7.5 against St. Bonaventure there. All right, I think that is about it. Any thoughts on A&M Corpus Christi? I'm with you. CS Bakersfield. I haven't seen a whole lot to like out of them here in the early going this year at all. I think. Do I want to lay 7.5, 8? With a team that can struggle at times defensively? No, but I don't want Bakersfield, so it'd be the favorite or pass for me there.
Yeah, but I get it's moved too much though.
Yep.
I mean, up to 8 now. There's no way I'm laying 8.
Yep.
The Texas A&M
Exactly. I
I
wanted to bet that side, but I thought it would be something like the markets have crashed quicker on Bakersfield than I thought. I thought maybe a few weeks ago, maybe they might have been even just a 2 or 3 point favorite at the beginning of the season in this spot, A&M Commerce. Now we're talking 7.5, 8. So they're clearly making an adjustment. All right, there we go. I think that's it for Q&A. Yep, we got through them all. Thanks to everyone for the questions. We appreciate every day. We'll go through them at the end of the show. Hit the like button. Make sure you do that. We appreciate it. Conor and I will be back with best bets, and we'll wrap up the show right after we hear from Manscaped and Southtown 101. All right, Southtown 101. When you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke, and manscaped.com. Promo code PubSports. 20% off your purchase, Lawnmower 4.0, or any Manscaped product. Get 20% off with promo code PubSports. All right, best bets to wrap it up for this Tuesday edition of College Basketball Net Profit. The overall card was okay for me, but best bets weren't the greatest. So we'll see if we can make up for that tonight. Conor, Mac, what do you got for best bet?
I'll just give you the 3 bets I'm on. I'm on San Diego State money line, plus 115. I got a 2.5. I'm taking the 2.5 at Circa, under South Florida, St. Joe's 131. And the other one we talked about, I'm on Southern Indiana, plus 7.5.
All right, good stuff. There you go. Multiple best bets for Conor. There we go. Come on, UAB. UAB pulling away from Georgia late. I faded Georgia again, even though they finally got me last night against St. Joe's. Fading Mike White again, and UAB starting to pull away from Georgia. They're up by 15 with 3 minutes to go. So keep it up, UAB, in that one. All right, best bet for me here on this Tuesday card. I'm going to stick to one tonight. One best bet. I feel good about this one. I like the way they're playing. I think after a 4-0 start against a bunch of cupcakes, maybe a little overvalued tonight in this game down in the Cayman Islands now. Let's go with the Nevada Wolfpack. Plus 4.5 against Kansas State. And look, I took Kansas State against Cal, and I backed them a couple times against some of these weak teams. Keep in mind, that Cal game was not easy for Kansas State. That game was very close deep into the second half, and Cal's not good at all. So this is a huge, huge step up in terms of quality of competition, quality of opponent, in my opinion, tonight for Kansas State. And they're laying 4.5. So I think the worst case scenario, Nevada's right there down to the wire, and it wouldn't even shock me if Nevada wins this game. I like the way they're playing. Nevada plus 4.5 against Kansas State for my best bet here for this Tuesday college basketball card. That'll wrap up this edition of College Basketball Net Profit. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Appreciate all of you tuning in.
Hit the like button.
Yeah, 100%. Conor said
Become a member.
Yeah.
One time. Say it one time. That's it. $4.99.
That's it. $4.99 a month, 18 cents a day. It's well worth it. Conor and I are back tomorrow, Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, our last show before Thanksgiving for the Wednesday card. We're off Thursday, and then we're back, of course, on Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, once again with Net Profit right here on Pub Sports Radio. For Conor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck, and we will talk to you again on Wednesday, tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, for another edition of College Basketball Net Profit right here, you know where, Pub Sports Radio.